Friends, imagine this. You wake up in the morning, and your mind is already racing. You're overwhelmed by a flood of thoughts that feel like they've been brewing in the back of your mind for days, weeks, maybe even years. You're trying to focus, trying to be present, but your thoughts seem to spin out of control, creating a cyclone of anxiety that clouds everything you do. If this sounds familiar, know that you are not alone. We all struggle with overthinking. In a world filled with distractions and constant demands for our attention, it's easy for the mind to become a labyrinth of endless worries and fears. But what if I told you there's a way to break free from this endless cycle, to stop the relentless chatter of your mind and find peace amidst the chaos? Today, I want to share a story with you, a story that has been passed down through generations in Buddhist tradition. It's a story about a monk who, through a simple and humble practice, discovered a profound truth about the nature of the mind and how to overcome the very thing that holds us back from true peace: overthinking. Once, in a quiet corner of ancient China, there was a monastery nestled in the mountains. Here, 500 monks lived together, each one dedicated to the path of self-awareness under the guidance of their wise master. Among them was a young man, restless and searching for something he could not quite put into words. He approached the master one day and asked, "Master, I want to know the truth. I seek to understand who I really am. Please, teach me." The master, wise and experienced, looked at him with gentle eyes and replied, "If you truly seek the truth, you must be willing to stake everything on it. It may take your entire lifetime to discover, and even then, there's no guarantee you will find it. Are you prepared for such a journey?" The young man, full of determination, answered without hesitation, "I am ready, master. I will not turn back." With that, the master assigned him a task. "In this monastery, we have 500 monks, and we need rice every day to sustain us. For the next several years, you will grind rice for us. From morning until night, you will grind, and when you are tired, you will sleep. You will do nothing else. Do not think about anything. Just grind the rice." The young man, eager and steadfast, followed the master's instructions. Day after day, he ground rice. As the months passed, old thoughts and worries came and went. At first, his mind was full of distractions, but over time, those distractions began to fade. He no longer worried about the past or the future. He had no name, no identity, he simply ground the rice. 12 long years passed in this way. Now, let me pause here for a moment. This is where the real magic of the story begins. You see, most of us are constantly seeking answers in books, in teachings, or in the external world. We read, we analyze, and we engage in endless contemplation. But what if I told you that the answers we seek often don't lie in thinking, but in being? The young monk didn't think his way to enlightenment. He didn't meditate for hours on end. He simply immersed himself fully in the present moment, in the simple task of grinding rice. By doing so, he transcended his thoughts and discovered the stillness that lies beneath all mental noise. Now, years later, the master declared that his time was coming to an end, and he must choose a successor to lead the monastery. The master called for all of his disciples to come forward and write a few lines on the wall, lines that would capture the essence of their life's experience and wisdom. Many disciples, learned in Buddhist scriptures, came forward with their philosophical musings, one even writing, "The mind is like a mirror, gathering dust from thoughts and desires. Meditation is the process of removing this dust." But the master, upon reading these lines, rejected them outright, calling them nonsense. He said, "These words are clever, but they are not the truth." The disciples were confused, as these words seemed wise. Yet, the master's rejection was deliberate. The true path to wisdom wasn't in clever words, it was in direct experience. And then, something remarkable happened. The simple rice grinder, who had spent 12 years in silence, approached the master with a smile. He had heard the disciples discuss the rejection, and something within him stirred. He wasn't a scholar, and he didn't have any philosophical wisdom to share. But he laughed quietly and said, "The master is right. These words are garbage. They hold no value." The other disciples, shocked, asked him to write something better, But the rice grinder, illiterate and humble, said, "I cannot write, but I can speak a few lines. If you write them down for me, I will share them." When the rice grinder's words were written, they were simple, yet profound. The mind is just an illusion. There is no mind, nor is there a mirror of the mind. And when there is no mind, where can dust settle? The one who understands this understands the truth. The master, upon reading these lines, immediately stood up, walked to the rice grinder and said, "Take my staff and robe. From this moment you are my successor. But leave this monastery. Go far away. For many here will not accept that a simple rice grinder has realized what they have not." And so, the rice grinder left the monastery, not with pride or arrogance, but with the quiet assurance that he had discovered something deep and lasting, something far beyond the confines of overthinking. Now, let me ask you, do you struggle with overthinking? Are you constantly trapped in your mind, dwelling on the past, imagining the future, and losing sight of the present moment? The rice grinder story holds a profound lesson for all of us. Overthinking comes from a place of disconnection. We believe that by thinking more, we can solve our problems, but in reality, we only complicate them. Meditation, as we see in this story, isn't about sitting still for hours or achieving a particular state of mind. It's about being present, immersed in the task at hand, whether it's grinding rice or simply living life. When you lose yourself in the present moment, your mind becomes still, and in that stillness, clarity arises. But I understand, in our world today, the pressure to overthink is ever present. We are bombarded with information, opinions, and expectations. Overthinking often comes from a place of fear. We fear making mistakes, fear failure, and fear that we aren't good enough. But when we let go of this fear and trust the process, something miraculous happens. The mind quiets down, and solutions come naturally. Now, let me share a personal story with you. A few years ago, I was overwhelmed by the pressure of constantly making the right decisions in my life and work. I thought the more I analyzed my situation, the clearer my path would become. But the more I thought, the more uncertain I became. Then one day I decided to stop. I took a step back, focused on the present moment, and allowed myself to simply be. The answers came not through thinking, but through action and presence. I realized that by constantly overthinking, I was blocking my own clarity. Friends, here are a few practical steps to overcome overthinking. Acknowledge that you overthink. Self-awareness is the first step. Realize when your mind is racing and gently bring yourself back to the present moment. Focus on positive thinking, shift your mindset. Instead of dwelling on the what-ifs of failure, focus on the possibilities of success. Practice meditation and mindfulness. Even if you can't sit in meditation for hours, start small. Be mindful of whatever you are doing, whether it's washing dishes, walking, or working. Live in the present moment. The past is gone, and the future is unknown. The only moment you have is now. Focus on it. Let go of perfection. Remember, no one is perfect. Stop judging yourself harshly and accept where you are in your journey. Friends, the path to overcoming overthinking is not about controlling your thoughts. It's about letting go, trusting the process, and being fully immersed in the present moment. Like the rice grinder, you don't need to search for truth outside yourself. It's already within you. Thank you for taking the time to listen. If the story resonated with you, share it with someone who might need it. Subscribe for more lessons on how to live a life of clarity and peace. May your journey be filled with wisdom, stillness, and presence.